Hey folks, welcome back. It's Friday, April 4th, 2025, and arguably this is South Africa's horrible day. It's been a very bad day for South Africa, buffeted by all kinds of actions, not the least of which include a bill being introduced by Troy Nehls of Texas that would complicate the refugee matter regarding South Africa and make it a matter of law specifically for white Afrikaners to come to America. Bad news for South Africa on that front. Then Ronnie Jackson, the former personal physician of President Trump during his first administration, now congressman from the 13th District of Texas, has relaunched the effort from February 6th of last year during the Biden administration to review South Africa-U.S. bilateral relationship with the aim of punishing South Africa. This time around, the bill is much longer than I think it was 6 pages last year. Now it's 15 pages, including egregious offenses against the United States by South Africa and the ANC, against our national security interest, against our national interest. And it goes beyond that this time. This act also accuses South Africa's government, the ANC, of malfeasance, state capture, ineptitude, corruption. It's really damning what's coming out of this bill that's going before Congress and the House of Representatives. Now, the difference between last year and this year is that the Republicans control the House, they control the Senate, and the White House. So this bill might get amended, but it's a very real chance it could become public law. And it triggers several things, not the least of which is an effort by Ronnie Jackson to sanction ANC leaders. This is the first time we've publicly heard something like this. I and other analysts have been pointing out the danger, the hazard that South African political leaders could be sanctioned for their behavior, particularly the way they've been abusing America. But now to see it publicly listed in a potential law from a member of the House of Representatives, when the party that's pushing it controls both houses, the bicameral legislature and the White House, which means it could become law, quite shocking. In addition to this, the High Consul from Los Angeles for South Africa has been booted out of the country for her conduct, apparently supposedly tied to CARE, the Islamic pro-Islamist group here in America, Council on American Islamic Relations, who gave her an award recently, and her statements against Israel and anti-Semitic comments, apparently that's the reason she was booted out of the country. So yet another own goal by South Africa's diplomatic corps. The ambassador, Ibrahim Rasool, was kicked out after calling President Trump the leader of a global white supremacist movement with no evidence whatsoever, violating diplomatic norms, and then calling America racist, calling Americans racist. This coming from someone who has a contorted view of what Palestinians are and what's going on there. So Rasool was kicked out a few weeks ago. Now the High Counselor in Los Angeles has been kicked out. The military attaché, his tour ended, he left, so the press jumped on that and said, oh, he's been kicked out too. When he wasn't kicked out, he simply ended his tour. But things are not looking good. And as if the Afrikaner Act for refugee status, a bill, as if the review of the bilateral relationship by Ronnie Jackson, and as if the High Consul being kicked out wasn't enough, we also have allegations coming from a British non-government organization that's been investigating South Africa's involvement in money laundering, and they're claiming that South Africa's DIRCO, Director of International Relations and Cooperation, knew about the October 7th, 2023 terrorist attack by Hamas before it happened. The claim, which is not substantiated by any evidence that I've seen yet, but the claim says that South Africa's DIRCO officials knew that it was happening and coordinated with Hamas so that they get a favorable media blitz, a campaign to counter Israel's expected response. So what the heck? Seriously? This is a day of epically bad proportions. I'm not sure what the Rand is doing today, but if it's holding its own, I'd be shocked. This is really, really bad news. And all of this comes a day after South Africa gets 30% tariff slapped on it for its unfair trade practices with the United States, and basically AGOA is evaporated and eviscerated overnight. So essentially, South Africa's lost AGOA. They're instantly less competitive than other countries that ship cars in America because South Africa won't get a 25% tariff on their cars. They get a 30% tariff, whereas the European manufacturers have a 25% tariff, making them instantly more competitive than South Africa, whose cars come on a route that's less traveled and more expensive. So add to that higher tariffs, and the advantage you had of no tariffs on those cars is completely gone. South Africa's economy is likely going to a tailspin as a consequence of all the actions taking place this week. It's not a good situation, and this was all preventable. Cyril Ramaphosa, are you listening? Why in the world is Ronnie Lamola the Minister of Foreign Affairs, let alone a member of your cabinet or even a member of parliament? This is all well beyond the man's capacity. So in response to all these actions by Ronnie Jackson, by Troy Nehls, all these things happening now, what does Ronnie Lamola do? He strikes back and says that Ronnie Jackson's bill is full of lies and misstatements and deceptions. Well, that's simply not true. It's a matter of public record. Most of the things that are included in that report that South Africa has done against U.S. national interests. But the key feature of this bill is that South Africa claims to be non-aligned when in fact it is aligned, very much so, with malevolent actors, including Hamas, Iran, Russia, and China. They deny it, but their actions speak louder than words. The foolhardy behavior of the South African government is just beyond conception here. Why in the world would you antagonize your second largest trading partner, your most beneficial trading partner, a partner that has 600 companies operating in your country, providing hundreds of thousands of jobs, a country that gives you duty-free access to its marketplace and doesn't even demand anything in return? Why in the world would you act in this fashion? Unless you want to play the role of martyr. It's time for Ronnie Lamola to find something in the private sector for once in his life. He's clearly not up to the task of what he's doing. And it's harming South Africa's national interests, it's harming the ANC's reputation, and it's going to harm regular South Africans, everyday South Africans, who will lose jobs and suffer as a consequence of what's going on there. Your foreign affairs are a total disaster, South Africa. Poorly handled by Naledi Pandor and now by Ronnie Lamola. You need to find an adult with a gravitas to lead that department and nominate and appoint ambassadors who know how to behave as ambassadors. You keep your private, personal opinions about someone to yourself when you work in the diplomatic field. You don't run your mouth like Ibrahim Rasool did, unless you were told to do it. And if that was the case, it explains an awful lot about the relationship with South Africa. Well, today's horrible day for South Africa, April 4th, 2025. Things have gone sideways very quickly. What say you, South Africa? What say you, world? Things are not looking pretty for the African National Congress. Oh, it'll be a tough weekend. Cheers, everybody.